Hi, my name is Laureen Livesey Park, and I am ICD's Certification Program Director. This is ICD's Introduction to Chronic Disorganization for the Public. ICD is the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. I've been involved with ICD since 2005, first as a subscriber and almost since then as a member of the leadership team. And it's an association I feel very proud of, and I'm happy to share what we have to offer you.
Hi, I'm Lynne Bolton, and it's a pleasure to be here with Laureen. I have been an ICD subscriber since 2012. I am the marketing director currently, and I'm wrapping up my third year. I am a level 3 certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization, and it is my pleasure to be with you today to share more about chronic disorganization. So before we jump into defining the term chronic disorganization, let me tell you who came up with this term. Judith Kohlberg, who is a veteran professional organizer, and she's really a rock star in our industry, first spoke about CD. We're going to go with chronic disorganization as CD now throughout this presentation because it's a mouthful. She first spoke about CD in 1992, and almost 30 years ago. And in 1998, she wrote a book about it. And in 2002, she was a founding member of what is now the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. It was previously named the National Study Group for Chronic Disorganization. So chronic disorganization has 3 defining features: the persistence of severe disorganization over a long period of time, the daily undermining of one's quality of life by disorganization, and a history of failed self-help attempts. Chronic disorganization is not a diagnosis. So how do you determine whether you, a family member, a friend, or a spouse is affected by chronic disorganization? We suggest that you ask these 3 questions. Has getting organized been a challenge for you for most of your adult life? Does being disorganized negatively affect your life in some way every day? And have you tried and failed to get organized on your own? So let's dig a bit deeper and take a look at some of the common characteristics of someone who is affected by CD. Needs visual cues. So like piles of paper as reminders to take action. Is easily distractible. So start one thing and then get pulled elsewhere. Has multiple unfinished projects. Likes to start things and then start another thing and then another thing and not going back to complete those things. Is chronically late. Maybe having one more thing-itis. Again, getting distracted, and so then ending up not being on time. Has many interests and hobbies, lots of books about different things, crafts, activities, and is talkative, intelligent, and emotional. So you may have heard or said one of these things. I want to get it together. I can't seem to have enough time. I'm embarrassed that I can't figure it out. It's been like this forever. I keep meaning to finish this. I lose things all the time. I have shared what CD looks like, and now Laureen is going to share how CD is different from regular disorganization and hoarding behavior.
Thanks, Lynn. First, let's talk about hoarding, because a lot of people, when they hear the term chronic disorganization, they think automatically about hoarding. And I think it's fair to say that all people with hoarding disorder are chronically disorganized, but not all people affected by chronic disorganization exhibit hoarding behavior. Hoarding behavior is a subset of chronic disorganization. But anything that interferes with typical executive function of the brain will affect organization. Most of my clients, for example, are adults with ADHD. Regular disorganization that doesn't meet the 3 pieces that Lynn just talked about is often the result of something that exists short term for someone. There's been a move, a change in the family makeup, a life-changing event of some sort. A usually fairly organized person is thrown into disorganization due to the circumstances that they're in. They might or might not be able to manage getting through that without help. And a person affected by chronic disorganization is always disorganized unless they work really hard to put systems in place for themselves. And they often, but not always, do need help in finding those systems. So remembering those three things that Lynn talked about, the history, the impact on the daily life, and the expectation that things are not going to get better unless they work really hard to make some changes. How do we make those changes? I hear from organizers all of the time, my usual organizing systems just don't seem to be working. It's very frustrating for the clients and the organizers. And a lot of organizing systems that seem really natural to many people just don't work for people affected by chronic disorganization. You may have found something that works really well for you and are very frustrated that it doesn't work for your partner or your kids or your boss, but maybe their brains just don't do organized. So the simple file system that works so well for you just is not making any sense. The easy categories that you love, they just might not make any sense. One of the hardest parts of helping somebody else get organized is letting go of what works for you personally and finding something that works for them. So Lynn's going to talk about some things that do work for people affected by chronic disorganization.
So, like anything, it's important to experiment, right? And see what works for you. And then it may require some changing things up and throwing in new techniques just to keep us motivated. So, I'm going to share 5 different ideas. Let's say you're standing in your basement and you don't know where to start. Try the first thing, treasure hunt. So, it's like standing there and you pick things that can definitely go and be donated, or things that are definitely something you want to keep, or something that's definitely rubbish, or something's definitely recycle. So you're doing a hunt rather than that, we'll just start from the bottom and go down. That doesn't work with many people affected by CD. Second, you could try playing favorites. So you could get like really ruthless, like this will live or this will die. So you want to get like really kind of emotional about it. Third idea, so let's say you're sorting through something that you have kind of a large quantity of. T-shirts, plastic containers, something that you want to edit down. This is one of my favorite techniques that I use with my clients, and Judith Kohlberg came up with it. It's called friends, acquaintances, and strangers. So the idea is that you over-personalize things. So of course, let's just go over, friends are people that you keep close to you, that you hang out with. Strangers, not so much. Acquaintances, you see them now and again. So let's say you're looking through your t-shirts and you want to keep your friends. So those are the ones that you're going to keep close. And then the things that, the strangers, well, it might have a rip, or you don't like the color or something about it. It's like, no, just get rid of it. Acquaintances, yeah, you've worn it just maybe during like particular season. It's like, kind of like on the fence about it. So maybe those are ones that you kind of think about, ponder, or those may eventually go. So you're keeping your friends. Another idea that you could do is, let's say that you're working through a room of accumulated items. Like, try looking at this project holistically, like meaning keeping things together. And because it's not, like Lorraine says, as easy as like, just set up this file system and just do it like that, or, just keep it or toss it. It's not that easy for people with chronic disorganization in their life. Try looking at the whole room of items as a timeline, like past, present, future. So you're keeping this thing together as a whole. And so the items from the past, think about, do they fit my life now? Can I display or honor them, that part of my life? Or is it time for them to go? Items in the present. Is this thing currently active? Is it serving me? Maybe throw in, does this thing need me rather than do I need it? Does it earn the space in your house? Then look at the items for the future. Do I have a plan for this thing? And I always say to my clients, you're the boss, so you determine how much space in your house you want to allocate for, I may do it someday. So we professional organizers say that organizing is a social activity. And so the last idea that I have that I want to share with you is called body doubling. This is often the role of a professional organizer. Body doubling is they're holding space for you. It's like an anchor, they're a mirror, and they're being present with you to keep you on task. A body double could be a non-judgmental friend. So, have you ever worked on a project and just having somebody in the room, maybe they're doing something else, that helped you stay on task? That's body doubling. So now we're going to share resources that the Institute for Challenging Disorganization has for you. So Lorraine?
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. One of the best resources we have is professional organizers who have been educated by ICD. And I'm going to share my screen to show you how to find an organizer near you. So what you're looking at is ICD's homepage. And if you enter challengingdisorganization.org, or if you arrive here by doing a Google search on chronic disorganization or find an organizer, find a CPOCD, we hope this is where you're going to end up on our homepage. And one of the first places you probably want to look is down here, find an organizer. So you click in here, and there are kind of two different ways to use this. This search works best with less information. And if you live in the United States, I recommend you enter only your zip code. What's your zip code, Lynn?
44313.
Thank you. And then you search by zip code. And there's Lynn, because that's her zip code. So what's going to happen is this is going to bring up people by your proximity. And you can see we don't necessarily have a lot of people who are close to you, but this will bring up the ones who are closest. And then this allows you to go through and look at their profiles on the ICD website. Now, to be listed on here, they must have earned at least our Foundation Certificate of Study, which is 6 hours of classes about chronic disorganization generally, and the main areas that we cover. If you are not in the United States, we encourage you to search by country, and you can narrow it down depending on how big a result you get. So I'm in Canada. I'm going to start by searching just Canada, and what will happen is you'll get a lot of people, and some of them may be close to you and some of them may not. And you can see you can also narrow it down by province, and that will help. But again, we don't have a lot of organizers necessarily. We have 26 in Canada, so that's spread kind of thin. But it helps you to find people who are in your country, and you know your geography better than we do, so you can do some geography. If you want, you can narrow it down a little bit more and search by province, but in many countries you're not going to get a huge result, and you will know who is near you. You see, here's our Australian contingent, and we have 11 in Australia. So this gives you, as I said, an opportunity to go back and look at each person's information on our website, which will tell you what certificates have they earned. Do they have extra education from us? We need to get people to fill out their profiles. We do have a number of CPO/CDs. They are certified professional organizers in chronic disorganization, and this is our certification level. It's almost 2 years worth of education that people have earned and achieved to go through extra preparation to serve clients affected by chronic disorganization. Maybe you're not sure you want to hire a professional organizer just yet, but you're looking for some resources, or maybe you're looking for resources for someone else. We have free fact sheets available to the public. They're here under resources. This comes up on every page, and we can click on ICD Fact Sheets. You'll see we have quite a list here. The ones for the public are mainly under the pandemic series. Those are primarily for professional organizers. But we've got quite a lot here. And Lynn and I are each going to talk about 2 of our personal favorites. So my favorite that I recommend more than probably all the others put together, because often I'm recommending it for people who are saying, I would like to help my friend, my family member, I'm just not sure what to do. One of the best places to start is how you're communicating with people. What are you saying? And this fact sheet, I'll show it to you. They're mostly 1 or 2 pages. It's very simple, easy to read. It acknowledges that you might be getting angry about it. Here's some things that don't work. Here are some things that do work. This adds on to what we were talking about earlier. We know how frustrating it is when you're trying things that you think should work and they just don't. So this gives you some positive ideas of how to be helpful to a person that you know who is affected by chronic disorganization.
What's your second favorite?
My second favorite is readiness for change. And I think this is important, again, for people who are wanting to get organized and for people who are maybe wanting somebody else to get organized so that living with them is easier. And what we know as professional organizers is working with someone who is not ready for change in their life is going to be, again, very frustrating, not productive, potentially damaging. So before you hire a professional organizer, I would encourage you to look at this and think, where am I in this, in these phases? And they're all important phases. You need to start thinking about change before you can do it. And a lot of people come to us at this stage. They're just looking at their options. What could I do? And then we maybe become part of phase 2. What are the possibilities? And then when they're ready, they're reaching out. And then once they're at that point, then it makes a lot more sense maybe to start working with a professional organizer. So I think these are really important. Phase 4 and 5 are something you're likely to do with another person. You might be doing it yourself. If you're really motivated, that's great. I would say you're probably not going to bring in a professional organizer till you hit the reaching out stage.
I think all of them are incredibly useful, of course, because, both of us just believe a lot of what ICD is all about. My 2 favorites are you affected by chronic disorganization? And so this one, often I will ask people that have reached out to me to complete and send back to me before we get started. After, we've had a conversation, but I really want to hear from them how chronic disorganization shows up for them. And so this yes, no can be pretty insightful. It really touches on some of the things that we talked about already, and, can give some insight into where someone is kind of at in their life.
The first 3 questions there are the ones that we identified as being important questions to ask, kind of the key questions.
That's right. And the second one is the one right below, the characteristics of individuals affected by chronic disorganization. So we mentioned some of these today, but it kind of puts it in light of home and work and what kind of things show up. And I think that it's a quick and dirty for somebody to kind of see, do I have any of these characteristics? Yeah. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. And if you have any other questions, It's easy to find any of the leadership, or you can email icd@challengingdisorganization.org. If you want to join ICD, we call our membership a subscribership, and you can get access to classes. There's different levels, and you can find that on our subscriber page. When you first come to the homepage, you see Join Us. So that's going to take you to learning all about the different levels.
That's right. And if you want to talk to somebody, I'm usually the one who's answering emails and returning phone calls. I'm always happy to talk about ICD.
Absolutely. So, all right. So thank you. And we hope that this is helpful.
Thank you.
Remember, challengingdisorganization.org. We're here for you to help those affected by chronic disorganization.
ICD's mission is to provide education, research, and strategies to benefit people affected by chronic disorganization and the professionals who work with them.